Ladies and gentlemen, please take your seats. Please take your seats. We're going to get started shortly.
Councilmember, you ready? Roll call. Councilmember Morrell is present. Councilmember Giarrusso, present. Councilmember Harris. Councilmember King, present. Councilmember Green, absent. We have 3 members. We have a quorum.
Thank you. First up, we'll do the approval of the minutes from the October 30th meeting. Councilman Giarrusso moves to approve, second by Councilmember King. All in favor say aye. All right, that is 3 yeas, no nays. The minutes are approved. The first item we'll go up to is number 3, which is appointments. We have the first up is Emily Harville for mosquito, termite, and rodent control. Ms. Harville? Not here. Okay, we'll pass over her. You're okay. Come on down. I'll ask you the same question we ask everyone. Why do you want to be on mosquito, termite, and rodent control? This should be entertaining. A well sought after.
I think it's obvious who wouldn't want to be on that board, right? No, I'm an epidemiologist by training, and it's an opportunity for me to see how this is, to provide some expertise from my side, but also to see how it's playing out for the city. I also work for Tulane in our School of Public Health, so it's a way for me to make connections for our students and for them when they're hiring, looking to get people who are trained in our area.
Okay, well, that sounds great. All of your paperwork is intact. I will move to approve. Can I get a second? Second by Councilmember Giarrusso. Please vote your machines. 3 yeas, no nays. You forward to the full council. Thank you for being here. Appreciate it. Next up, I know we're waiting on Ms. Frost, see if she can get out of jury duty. We have Geraldine Broussard. Is she here?
Yes, she is.
There she is. She was laying in wait right there in the front row.
Absolutely.
All right, same question. Why do you want to be on the Convention Center board?
Well, I'm born, raised, and educated here in the city of New Orleans, so this is my city. So the opportunity to provide a service means a lot to me. I'm humbled and honored to do it. I've served on it for 4 years. My colleagues on the commission elected me as vice president over the last 4-year term, which was an honor, and they obviously placed some faith and trust in me. I think that as a business person and an attorney, I bring a perspective as a woman. I think that added diversity and perspective is very, is needed and important. So I'm humbled to serve, given the opportunity.
Well, thank you. All of your paperwork is here in order. I will move for approval. Can I get a second? Second by Councilmember Giarrusso. Please vote your machines. 3 yeas, no nays, forward to the full council. Thank you. Next up, Mr. Stephen Smith for the Fines Authority of New Orleans. Hello, Mr. Smith. Same question. Why do you want to be on FANO?
I've been on the board for several years. I think we're doing a lot of good things, and we have a lot of good things in the hopper that are coming up, and I would like to continue and see it out.
All right. Your paperwork is in order. Mr. King moves, seconded by Mr. Giarrusso. Please vote your machines. 3 yeas, no nays. You forward to the full council for consideration. Thank you for being here today.
Thank you.
All right. We are passing over number D, which is Mr. Watson for the New Orleans Aviation Board. Next up, we have Mylar, number 8, if you're ready to go, Mr. Giarrusso.
I'm ready. Can I just get somebody at the presentation?
All right. For the record, there will be no vote on this matter. There's an amendment pending, so it'll be going to the full council.
That's right. All right. Our friends, Mylar Balloons. I think everybody remembers not that long ago when a Mylar balloon was released, made contact with energy lines, caused a power outage. The Sewage and Water Board lost power. An employee was hurt trying to restore power, and then we had a boil water advisory. We simply cannot afford to have power outages and hurt ourselves unnecessarily. And unfortunately, Mylar balloons, those foil balloons, conduct electricity, they cause power outages, and they make things unsafe for residents and harder for us to live here. So we've looked at other municipalities, and this is what the presentation is going to show, that have either banned or have outlawed Mylar balloons or their releases. Here are some of the stories from some of the media outlets. You can see one story is from March of 2021, August of 2024, October of 2024. This has been a recurring issue because, unfortunately, we keep on releasing these balloons that are making contact with the lines that then in turn cause power outages. And it's not just a problem, as I said, for the city. We can go through these. Las Vegas has had power problems because of Mylar balloons. Milwaukee has had problems because of Mylar balloons. Where is this, Claire? Lubbock has had problems because of the Mylar balloons. Costa Mesa has had problems. And Seattle, too. This has been something that is a major city issue because it affects everyone. And just like gravity, electricity does not discriminate. And anywhere that you make contact with Mylar, this is going to be what happens. So what does the legislation do? Simply prohibits the release of foil or electronically conducive balloons. That's the primary reason we have an amendment to this, is because we use the term Mylar, and Mylar is maybe one of the manufacturers and isn't as expansive as foil or electrically conducive conductive balloons. We will also require signage at recreation facilities, parks, and cemeteries, and if necessary, set a fine for violation not to exceed $1,000. Let me say this. I've said this before about code enforcement, and I'll say it here too. On code enforcement, our goal is not to pursue somebody who has one shingle that's hanging by its side and make a capital case out of that. If a child happens to release a Mylar balloon, we are not sending the SWAT team after you as a result of that. But what we can do is help ourselves by saying we are going to prohibit this and make this a source so that we can try and get this under control and just do something that helps ourselves. So, Mr. Chair, that's it. Like I said, all the amendment does is change Mylar, and thanks to the council for making sure that we have a red line change. But all we've done is change Mylar out to electrically conductive and change Mylar to coated in foil metal or any other electrically conductive.
And just for the public's consideration, we are in conversations with Energy Alliance for Affordable Energy, and we are going to have a education campaign to explain to people, A, you shouldn't be releasing the balloons, and B, what they do. The typical latex balloons are not electrical conductive. You can still do balloon releases, just not the ones with foil balloons, is what we're trying to educate people on. With that, there's no action on this item, so that'll go to the full council for consideration. Next up, we are on number 7, which is stormwater. Mr. Smith, come on down. Okay, thank you.
Is this for me? No. Oh, is this for me? Fill it out now or after? Alright, I'll do it. Just keep this rolling. Here. Okay. Keep that going. Ready? Good morning, Council. Appreciate the invite. Special thanks, Councilman Morell, for the work that your team has put in on collaboration with various private entities, several of which are in the room, as well as kind of helping negotiate between various city agencies, including the Resiliency Office, to make sure that we have a robust kind of revision to stormwater. I have a brief presentation about what this is, but wanted to start with essentially what we're doing here, why we're here, kind of where this has been. And essentially, the stormwater rules in the city were created when the new CZO came into play in 2015. They were originally part of the CZO, and in 2018, the city decided, for a good reason, to move it into the building code because it was a little bit more flexible and it was much more in line with the construction activities. It's more of a construction process rather than a kind of theoretical or hypothetical zoning issue. A couple of things were addressed in 2018, including the addition of the fee and lieu option, which was extremely important at that time. But a couple of other changes that that were never addressed have now been, in my opinion, addressed in this updated ordinance. And there's a couple of major changes, there's a couple of specifics, and they in no particular order. They are along the lines of removing requirements that have never been either enforced or never needed to be enforced. And that's something along the lines of there was a bond requirement. You used to, when you had a stormwater project, you used to have to get a 2-year bond, making sure that if you deviated from that stormwater improvement that you spent a lot of money on, or you ripped it out at 400 days in, the city could call in that bond. To date, almost 10 years later, not a single person has ever ripped out their stormwater. Nobody's been accused of ripping out their stormwater improvements. No bonds have ever been called in. And this has been a burden. This has been just an extra financial penalty for anybody doing stormwater in the city of New Orleans. Where we also go with this is that the previous stormwater ordinance only kicked in at the 7th unit for a multifamily apartment, and then, of course, all commercial construction over 5,000 square feet. This amendment reduces that to the 5 units or above. So there's a small change, but it continues to exempt 1 through 4s. That's especially important because of the great work the council has done. I know Councilmember Harris with a small multifamily affordable process, and we certainly didn't want to tax those projects. This also reinforces a couple of best practices, removes language that's been redundant, removes language that no longer is part of the vernacular when it comes to stormwater, and it just makes it slightly cleaner. It also, one of the heaviest parts of this new ordinance is that it effectively removes stormwater requirements from existing buildings that are simply renovating their buildings and not increasing their footprint. This has been something that in the previous ordinance, the language mentioned if you were a substantial improvement, if you went over 50% of your construction cost, you would essentially have to retroactively apply 100% of the stormwater provisions to existing buildings. This, from the private sector, developers, architects, engineers, several of which are here today that will speak on this, it has created a preference to avoid existing buildings. We're obviously a city that has a unique relationship with blight and buildings that are not in service. We believe that this will help improve the odds of people identifying existing buildings. In addition, this was not the intent here, but as the legislature is currently in their special session and there's a high likelihood of them gutting the historic tax credits for renovations of historic buildings, this could potentially help mitigate, offset that in a very small way. In no way, shape, or form is it meant to be a one-to-one, or will it be a one-to-one, but there's the ability of this to improve some of those costs and some of those requirements. Again, there's also 2 other things. The Green Infrastructure Toolkit has been revised, and that's coming forward through a lot of work of the Department of Safety and Permits and through the Mayor's Office of Resiliency. And the last piece of this is we've noticed that a lot of projects in this city you go to every day and you have no idea that stormwater improvements exist. You have the general public is not being informed about them. We're not learning, we're not teaching our youth, we're not teaching the inhabitants of apartment buildings. When you're waiting for your coffee in the morning, and the building has some sort of feature, you're missing out on the opportunity to learn about that. So as part of this, it has a very, very modest suggestion that is actually a requirement, but suggested options for what signage can happen inside of these buildings that have stormwater management requirements, so that the general public can understand the benefits of that building and understand the extra work and effort that the property owners went through, so that we can hopefully teach more people about stormwater over the upcoming decades. Overall, that's the presentation. I wanted to have a special shout out to the AIA New Orleans. They helped us kick this off back in August of 2022. Since August of 2022, we've been working with stormwater advocates, water advocates. We've been working with the city council and your staffs. The AIA especially has hosted things for us and has made sure to publicize this information. The American Society of Civil Engineers. Special shout out to Terry Dreyer, Dana Brown, Rami Diaz, and Jamie Saxon, as they were very important in the early stages of this, especially to make sure that this ordinance, again, is not just looked at in some sort of way as like a developer friendly. It's making sure that the professionals in the room that are water experts, that are water advocates, that are actually building this stuff are okay and happy with the language in this ordinance. And we feel comfortable to say that this has a pretty universal buy-in based on a very lengthy back and forth with various agencies to get the ordinance that's in front of you today. So thank you so much. I'm around for questions.
Thank you. So no questions. We have several speakers. Peter Amott with Elysium Development. Amott. All right. He'll correct me when he comes up. Thanks, Peter. After Peter, we have Kenneth Golland.
Hi, thank you. Peter Amott, Elysium Development. I'm not going to go into great detail. I think that smarter people than me have gone over this at great length. I just wanted to let the council know that in good government, ordinance such as this have played a major role in helping with the infrastructure and flooding programs, and it's worked very well. But also in good government, it's very smart to look at those ordinances and regulations and amend them to make sure that they don't hamper what you're ultimately trying to improve. So as a general rule, I commend the councilman for this effort, this committee, and the council for the willingness to amend and fine-tune an already viable and valuable ordinance. And I just want to applaud you for your efforts, so I appreciate it. Thank you all.
Thank you. Mr. Golland, followed by Mr. Gibbs.
Ken Gowan, Metro Studio Architects. Guys, I've been practicing in New Orleans for 20 years now. We've seen these regulations come into play, which have been really positive for the city in terms of building resiliency and looking to the future. Since we've been using and practicing within these ordinances, we've now learned some of the practical limitations of what we have to work with within the city. The stormwater management system, putting those into existing buildings, especially historic building fabric, is very technically infeasible. A lot of times it involves significant excavations with sensitive soil-supported foundations next to it. And so while the intent of it is clear, it's always good to revisit our rules and regulations and right-size it for the problems that we have. I think this is a good opportunity to realign this ordinance with the practical limitations of the built fabric, and also, too, to give building owners a chance to invest in other forms of resiliency on older buildings that we know are extremely important given the insurance environment, given the increase in resiliency standards required by the building codes. Those things all have cost as well. And so this would allow us to better utilize our existing buildings, better utilize the funds that we have to bring those existing buildings into compliance with current standards. And so I think it's a really responsible move. We happily endorse all of the changes that are being put forth.
Thank you. Mr. Gibbs, followed by, it says Terry Hogan Drexter. I'm probably messing that up. Dreyer. There you go. Thank you. I'm not the greatest reading handwriting. Mr. Gibbs.
Hi, thank you, everyone. My name is Brian Gibbs, 400 Poydras Street. I support this. I've been tracking it for a while, and I think this is a really good move on your part. Generally, when we have to do these on historic buildings or existing buildings, we have to go into the ground floor and chop out effectively the foundations to get there, and you ended up stitching these pipes all around, and so it's really expensive and inconvenient. And then to the extent that if you had a site with extra land that you were going to use, even that is a nightmare, because then you forever can't build on it because you have all of this foundation. So to me, there's nothing more environmentally friendly than reusing existing buildings. So I think this still meets your objective spiritually. So thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Gibbs. Ms. Dreyer, followed by Christopher Johnson.
Good morning, everyone.
Morning.
I just wanted to applaud the council members and our committee. We've been at this for several years, and I think, as everyone knows, at least some of you, Chief of Staff, came to our Shaping the Cities event last fall. I'm a firm believer in resiliency, and we also believe that there are basically 4 elements for a resilient city, and that is the infrastructure and economy and the infrastructure and the environment. Stormwater management is crucial for the city of New Orleans for its success for the future, but so is our economic base. And understanding our assets and our historical value that we place not only just in the city but across the United States of America, it shows real forward leadership on taking a look and looking at the rules that we've set in place and then doing a lessons learned. That's huge, and that speaks to the wherewithal and leadership, because right now in today's world, I think it's really important. I stand by, and Nano, our architecture firm, stands by, wholly supports not only the infrastructure and stormwater management of yesterday, but actually the renovations of today. I know of three major businesses in this area that will be very excited about it because they're doing interior renovations, right? So there's a certain comprised amount of monies allocated for that. Needless to say, thank you very much for your attention to this, and thank you so much for all of the time and space that you've allowed us. All right, appreciate it.
Thank you. Mr. Johnson.
Good morning, council members. My name is Christopher Johnson. I'm speaking on behalf of AIA New Orleans, and I'm speaking in support of the process that went behind these revised text ideas. We've had a convening of architects, of civil engineers, of local politicians. We've had landscape architects come together to talk about what works and what doesn't work in the built environment, in the permitting process, and overall we're glad to say that it has joined a lot of voices who have an interest in improving the overall performance of the city's resiliency. And these multiple voices are coming together to make a better product that you see today. Thank you for, again, making your time available to us. We look forward to the adoption of this.
Thank you, Mr. Johnson. With that, we have 2 items to vote on under 7, item A and item B. The first is to amend and reordain section 2615 of the Code of the City of New Orleans relative to New Orleans amendments to adopt the International Building Code. I will move. Can I get a second? Second by Mr. King. Please vote your machines. 4 yeas. I'm sure Mr. 4 yeas. All right, no nays. It is approved. Second, we have item B, amendment calendar number 34894, which is additional amendment to clarify language distinguished between stormwater control measures and best management practices. I will move. Can I get a second? Second by Mr. King. Please vote your machines. 4 yeas, no nays. It is approved. Thank you, Mr. Smith. Appreciate it. Next up, we are doing Rule 57s. We have several of those. We have, let's see, first up, contracts. All right. We have a City of New Orleans and Turo Shakespeare Revitalization Company. Who's presenting on that? Somebody presenting on that one, just to explain what it is. Doesn't have to be lengthy, just we need to have it on the record. And after that, we have a City of New Orleans and Tool Design Group LLC. So, 2 Rule 57s.
Sure. Hi, I'm Tony Thompson, Real Estate Division. Katie Lair's with me as well as the developer. So the city owns the site at 2621 General Meyer, and we have a ground lease with Turo Shakespeare Revitalization Company. The site will be 52 100% affordable senior living units. And the city desires to enter into a loan disbursement agreement for $6 million. It's going to be secured by the leasehold mortgage, which you guys have as an ancillary document, as well as evidenced by the promissory note. HRI Torrey Shakespeare is taking on the stabilization of this building. And between the lease signing and the feasibility period, there was rapid deterioration of the structure. And so these funds are going to help stabilize it and make sure that the project's successful. Excuse me.
See any questions? I think that's
I have a quick question. Just want to get an update, just a general update, timeline, and when could we expect to see some movement on it?
Councilmember King, I'd be happy to do that. I'm Josh Collin, president of HRI Communities, 812 Gravier Street. Things have really gone well for this project over the last 6 months. We, with this approval and the amended and stated lease approval, which I believe is on council agenda for the 21st, we'll be ready to start construction in December on this $6 million of stabilization work. And then following that, we'll be closing on private financing and a loan from the state as part of their Prime 3 program, which is $5 million of CDBG disaster recovery. And that will allow us to build these 52 apartments. I would say we can close on that second financing, probably the summer of next year.
All right, thank you.
All right, with that, I will move. Can I get a second? Second by Councilmember King. Please vote your machines. 3 yeas, no nays. 4 to the full council. 4. Sorry. Oh, he's back there. I'm sorry. He's chatting. All right, 4 yeas. Thank you. Next up, we have item B, which is City of New Orleans and Tool Design Group, LLC. Someone speaking on that one for us? Oh, got someone coming up. Thank you for being here today. Appreciate it.
Good morning, council members. Dan Jontris with the Office of Resilience and Sustainability, speaking about the contract with Tool Design Group. This was in support of the city's receipt of the Safe Streets and Roads for All grant from the U.S. Department of Transportation. The work we'll be doing with that grant is creating a comprehensive safety action plan focused on addressing traffic fatality and severe injury crashes citywide, with the goal of reducing those down to zero through a combination of project identification and policy identification to improve roadway safety.
All right. Are there any
questions that you'll have?
All right. Hearing none, I will move. Can I get a second? Second by Councilmember King. Please vote your machines. 3 yeas, no nays. It is approved. Thanks for being here today.
All right. Thank you.
Next up, we will be taking up item number 6, which is a motion regarding TCA. We are suspending the rules to add the substitute motion. So first, we have to suspend the rules for substitute motion because the original amount that was listed in the original filing was incorrect. Can I get a second on that motion to suspend the rules?
I will second.
All right, second by Councilmember King. I'm sorry, by Councilmember Green. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
3 yeas, no nays. The rules are suspended. Then I will have to move to add to the agenda. No?
Yes,
Councilmember Grant,
I think we're going to need Councilmember Jeruso here.
I just want to say that I'm on the TCA board.
Oh, okay.
I'll abstain from voting.
Then we'll wait for Mr. Jeruso.
Yeah, we'll need a unanimous vote to add it to the agenda. Yes.
All right, there you go. Add to. He's going to need him right back again in a second. All right. This adds money to TCA sub-recipient agreement, extends the term to cover invoices for a program we had previously funded. I will move favorably. Can I get a second? Second by Councilman Drews. All in favor say aye. 3 yeas, 1 abstention. It is approved. The last item on our agenda today is item number 5. I think we have a presentation from from Public Works, or at least someone probably wants to sit down here while we have comment. Just for those who are in attendance, a central component of the GA committee is increased transparency within government. Janus Cameras reached out to the council for clarification on why Ground Transportation Bureau will not approve and update the taxi cab cameras. As part of this committee's focus on transparency, we've requested ground transportation to appear before us today to address taxi cameras and why the Janus update has not been approved. And that is it. So, yeah, the date right. Yep. All right. Whenever you're ready.
All right. Good morning, Councilman. We're going to ask Erica Jarrow with the GTB to describe the issue with the camera company and the DPW response.
Okay.
How y'all doing? Good morning. My name is Erica Jarrow. I'm the Operations Supervisor of Ground Transportation Bureau. We have had communication with, I believe it's Peter Parker. Is this Peter Park? Peter Park. With the Janus Cam beginning 2022 in December. That's when I started the communication with him. Before that, it was Ms. Brownfield, which is Miss Yolanda right here. She was the acting administrator at the time. We did not have an administrator, so we were communicating with them, trying to get information on the Janus Cam. Once we received information on the Janus Cam, I stated to Mr. Park, Peter Park, that we could not make a decision based on not having an administrator at the time. By me being the operations supervisor, I couldn't make that decision, and Ms. Brownfield didn't have any understanding of what the Janus camera was at the time. So, like I said, the communication was done between me and Mr. Park, and once the communication was done, he did a presentation. We spoke with, that's when we believe we had Sarah Porteous.
Right.
When she came in, I explained to her what the specifics was. Nothing was never put in writing from Mr. Parker asking for this system to be brought in. Everything was through email. In the code, it states that it has to be put in writing for the director to approve it, right? And then the director is supposed to send something back to them in writing, but Ms. Porteous left. Before that, she did state that we was not going to approve it at the time, and we would circle back to it once some changes be made. The changes that we asked was the panic button on the camera was at the top of the camera. That's a hazard for the drivers, because once something happens, a panic button should be able to be pressed without anyone noticing that it's being pressed. But instead, they have to reach up to press it. That was the demonstration that I seen when Mr. Park showed us, right? In our code, which is 162.660, it says it's supposed to be tamper-proof with an on and off switch. It should not operate with an on and off switch. They do have an on and off switch. It can also be hooked up via wires, but from looking at his, the information that was sent from Mr. Park, it's still, the on and off switch can be touched by the driver, which means if they touch it, it goes in standby mode and it's not gonna record, right? We also had questions when it came down to the storage of an incident happening. In the code, it states that in order for an emergency trigger event, system must be able to store 2.5 minutes worth of images prior to the trigger and 2.5 after the trigger in an overwrite protected format, right? With those systems, it constantly records. Constantly. If they're not able to press that panic button, it won't record the incident that took place and save it. You follow me?
So you're saying the concern is that it will overwrite?
It will overwrite any incident, any accident, any like robberies that they be having with the drivers, things like that. That's a hazard, right? And that's where we went off with code. We want to be able to have them to have a system to where we can just go in, check that information when it happens, not have it be overwrite, and they could even use the cloud base, right? We were told to have a cloud base, but it has to be paid by the driver, right? If they don't utilize that, it'll just be Wi-Fi, which means that they will have to come to us. The footage probably would capture up to 10 days. After those 10 days, everything is overwritten because they're constantly driving.
Okay. Well, those are your concerns. We have some people in the audience, I guess, who want to express their concerns, so we'll get to that. Unless y'all have anything else y'all want to add?
No, that's it.
Okay. First up, make sure I have these in numerical order. We do these in order of when you check in, and I want to be, okay, so first up we have, I want to say this is Mr. Malik. Malik, come on up. Do you have a card filled out? You need to fill out a card. If you want to go first, you guys want him to go first?
I think this gentleman gonna go first.
Okay, then you can fill out a card after you speak, but you come to speak, my staff will bring you a card. After you're done speaking, just fill out the card. You have 2 minutes. So go ahead up and talk.
Well, good morning, council members. Thanks for inviting me to present my case. We've been supplying cameras for 15 years. We've been supplying cameras to the city of New Orleans for 10 years. It's the same manufacturer camera system. We just updated, tried to get approved. It's been in 2 months, it's going to be 3 years since our last communications. So, 3 years since our first communication, but I just want to respond to her comments on a panic button. Our first generation that was approved by City of New Orleans was the same issue about panic buttons. Our camera system is recording 24 hours. So there's no requirement, there's no need for the panic buttons. Everything is stamped by the date and time, so everything is there. So if you say incident happened last night around 9 o'clock, we could go back to 9 o'clock last night and look at the full video on it. We could go back 10 days, look at the full video on it. So whatever days is required, we could make that happen. Because previous camera system, you could store up 64 gigabyte. Now we could store up to 512 gigabyte in the camera. So that wasn't an issue. And she's talking about on and off switch. We mentioned that to the team over and over again. On and off button in there is disabled. It doesn't do anything. We explained it to them. We showed it to them when we were here a year and a half ago. We showed it to them. And now we have the same issue. The clouds, mentioned about cloud system. Cloud system is not part of the regulation. It cannot be stored on the cloud system. The software have to be encrypted, which we did for the New Orleans. So anybody have access to the video cannot view the video without this encrypted viewer software, which we provided to the inspection, we provided to the police department.
Your time is up, but members, I'm okay giving him another 2 minutes so he can finish his presentation. Is that okay? Okay, so I'll move for 2 additional minutes. Any objection? Hearing none. 2 more minutes. Go ahead.
Okay, and they're mentioning about the locking mechanism for safety of removing the power system SD cards. Again, we send them an email, we send them a picture, and a year and a half ago when we were here, we showed them the locking mechanism. We're still having the same issue stating there's no locking, it's not being secure enough. So we have answered every question and concern they have. We came to New Orleans to inspection center, we showed them the demonstration, how the inspection is done, and they're talking about RS-232 cables. With new technology, we could just walk to the camera system with the software, hook in right into the camera system, see if the camera is working within less than 2 minutes. Made it very convenient for the inspectors. But every time we answer to their questions, it takes about 6 months for me to get an answer. Like I say, it was February 2022, so in 2 months, it's been 3 years since I brought up our new camera system for approval.
Okay. I appreciate your comments. We have some more comments. I do want to make some comments myself. I am very discouraged that this has not been resolved, one way or the other. I think that this is something that should have been not 3 years, it should have been a meeting in a room with paper swap back and forth. And I'll be very clear, and I've been candid on this forever. I think it's kind of asinine that an Uber or a Lyft can pick you up. They don't have any of these requirements, and they are unhassled to be driving around right now picking up people all the time. And the fact that we have these requirements for cabbies in general is kind of ridiculous if we're not putting it on the at-will drivers. And the fact this is a holdup, is very frustrating. So I will say before you guys speak, whatever issues, if it's an issue in the code that is dumb, we can resolve it by changing the code. If there's no requirement that there be a cloud-based service, then I think that is not something we should be requiring them to have. As far as safety of the drivers, I'm going to defer to the drivers themselves. If the drivers aren't complaining about where the panic button is located or not located, like I said, this is not an indictment on y'all. It's an indictment on the code in that there are none of these requirements for the lifts and the Ubers that are around the city. They don't have any of these requirements, and they have far more people riding in those. I don't know what the holdup is on the taxis, who are literally the only group we're regulating right now.
Can I answer?
You can go ahead and answer.
I agree with you. I agree with Uber and Lyft. We complain about that constantly. We try to have them enforced. We would like to have them enforced. We used to enforce them. It was taken away from us. Why? That's a whole nother issue, right? And I agree. They should be enforced just as the cab drivers and all other for hire vehicles that are enforced. We don't have a problem with this camera.
Right.
That's the issue. The only issue that we had no one to approve the camera.
Right.
That was our issue, right? Yes, we did have specs that we had questions about that we did get answered from Mr. Peter, right? But Mr. Peter failed to state that he did get a reply from Ms. Sarah. Once that reply came from Ms. Sarah stating that she was not approving it at the time, she needed to get more information on it too, because she had just came through with our department, right? Now, if he would have came back the beginning of this year, I could have brought it back to our administrator, Ms. Creighton, right, and explained this to her. But cabs is not the only issue that we are dealing with.
I'm very familiar. So you guys have golf carts.
At that moment, at the end of the year, it was like.
Well, I'm going to listen to the other comments, but I think this is something that you guys need to sit in a room and resolve. And I would even encourage you, like we do every department, if you see things in the code that don't make sense, they need to be changed. And I'll be very candid. I agree. I think you need more authority over Uber and Lyft. I think it's kind of criminal right now when we have a budget that there's $35 million in fines that Uber owes us, and the city's not even pursuing it. I mean, when we're trying to figure out how we're going to pay for affordable housing, how we're going to pay for all these different things, you guys have authority to enforce the law, even when you previously enforced it and Lyft didn't pay it. That's the wrong message. If those cabbies owe $10, there's somebody chasing them down for $10. When you got a major international corporation owing $35 million, no one seems to care that they're not paying $35 million, and that's kind of ridiculous. It sends the wrong message to the citizens. It sends the wrong message to y'all because y'all are doing it in your enforcement, and it's just not followed up. So I will certainly take you up on Uber and Lyft getting enforced, but let's try and get this resolved sooner rather than later. It seems like this is, if you guys could get in a room, you could probably resolve this in a day.
Exactly.
Okay, so Mr. Peter, please get in a room with them. Please follow up with us. I know we have comments. If you still want to do your comments, you can, but I think this is largely might be on the way to being resolved, but do you want to speak before the comments or after?
Yeah, I just wanted to ask the history of it, and I'll take charge if I missed it, if it was something that we did, but can you talk about the background when you say that there was a change that we once monitored and regulated Uber and Lyft, and then there was a change? When did that change happen?
That change happened in 2018, I believe.
Okay, so it was prior to us. I just want to make sure that it wasn't something I missed, because
Yeah,
that
the
would be
state took
something
it over.
that I would have questioned.
Yeah.
It was the state.
So let's talk about it on the record. What happened?
We enforced Uber and Lyft. We were everything that we did with taxis, as far as drug tests, background, any violations that they did, we would enforce them, issue them citations. They had to go to hearings, just as well as a taxi driver. Once they went to the state, it stated that the city had no regulation over them, so they took it away from us, and we were told that we had to stop at that moment.
All right,
which was 2018.
Right. It's something that I'm not familiar with. I would like to look into it. But Councilmember Morrell, is it something that we have to go back to the state to do?
Well, I think there are some preemption issues. The state came in and made it known that they were going to have more oversight. I do believe we do have, and this is just me speaking from memory, there was supposed to be pass-through dollars that came from Uber and Lyft with the state regulation. I don't think we've had an accounting of that to make sure we're getting properly reimbursed for that amount. But I think there's still some opportunity for us to look at what was preempted and what might remain with us as far as having additional ways we could potentially regulate them. Because when it came to the general regulation of treating Uber like taxis, that was taken from us. But I think there's some other opportunities looking at how we regulate other things like pedicabs and the rest to see where we can maybe reclaim some of that ability. Because the reality is that we have significant safety concerns. We get more complaints about Uber and Lyft drivers and their interaction with customers than we do about cabbies.
I receive them also.
Yeah.
And I also contact Uber and Lyft myself to try to get some type of communication going. And I just always end up at a dead end.
Right. Because they told me not to talk to you, so they just say, thank you for your call.
That's it.
All right, well, we will continue to visit on that. I'm going to read these comment cards. If you still want to comment, feel free, but I think we've got, yes, Mr. Park.
I distributed the email communication I have with department. I send it over to administrative. If you guys don't have a copy,
My staff will get with you and get a copy of
Okay.
that, but I think if we can just get you guys in the same room and prioritize getting this resolved, I think that should be the goal. Mr. Malik, do you still want to speak?
I agree with you 100%.
Just come on down, go through these real quick. Mr. Malik.
I agree with you 100%, what your comments are. I don't know what the mix-up was, but it's a very good system, latest technology, and I have a strong electronic background. I don't see any problem with this system at all. So I really like your recommendation that put these people together. I think you'll solve that problem.
Well, and also not to, you guys have had a lot of turnover in that department at the highest level, so we're all going to just give each other grace and hopefully just get this resolved as soon as possible.
Thank you.
All right, Mr. Coleman. I'm just doing it in the order of when the cards were filed.
All right. Thank you very much, David. Here you go. First of all, Jason Coleman, Monco, doing business as Coleman Cab Company, Sunset Cab Company, DNA of Louisiana Court. In regards to Janice Camera, a request for a report to the law department was made, public record 2417719. The law department said no report exists. GTB has also testified that they did not report back to Mr. David officially. However, emails are official communications. And at the end of the day, business practices in New Orleans and trying to get things approved have been historically bad. And if we're going to be open for business, we have to be accountable no matter who's missing in office. This is 3 years coming up, and this is basically set up a monopoly between one vendor, one camera. $1,200 versus $500. We have to pay that burden, and that's the cost of doing business, and we can't afford it. We're asking for relief. We're asking for professionalism. Now, I want to say thank you for the calendar number 304726 with top lights, magnets, because we can't go through the car wash without getting it knocked off. We devalue the car by putting holes in the roof, just like you wouldn't put holes in your house. But the city of New Orleans, GTB, actually asked for triggers on those on and off switch for the magnetic top lights. No equipment exists. And this is where expertise comes in, that you cannot require something that does not exist. We don't make the stuff. We just buy it and use it. So I asked for the city council to revisit that. As you said, just FYI, we received a rate study from the GTB, but we have not gone forward with what the rates are going to be for 2025, and we haven't had a raise in 13 years. I think everybody in City Hall agrees they need one. We need one. And thank you for bringing up the Uber fine to City of New Orleans. It's $35 million. Add the interest, it's $50 million that the city should be pursuing. If we don't have a parking ticket paid for $15, we will not get our permits. And it's about fairness. And GTB needs to be representing this industry and not just regulating over us. Jason Coleman, thank you very much.
Thank you. Curton Palmer. And correct me if I say your name incorrectly because I've been doing it all day.
Yes, sir. Good morning. Name is Kirtan Parmar. I'm a GM for United Cab for last 3 years since the COVID. Thank you for listening to us. Like we said, you already said enough. We've been trying 3 years for this. We was forced to buy only one camera. It's cost $1,333 with the tax. Only one vendor approved, nobody else. So we've been trying to get this approved. We've been here before, maybe you remember me or not, but a couple of years ago for same thing, but nothing happened. I don't want to be like a broken record. We are the only one company left in the city who serve locals every day, 24 hours. A lot of drivers quitting away because the cost of to keeping a maintenance for everything. Only thing we asking, we've been through this already. I personally checked it. He put it in my cab yesterday just to demonstrate and everything. To me, I think that's the perfect way. You got 3 views, inside, outside, front, and a bird view for the camera. You can go 10 days back, every second, every minute, what you want to look into it, it shows everything over there. So please try to help us so we all here serve this great city. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Jamie Cuthbert.
Good morning or good afternoon. Thank you for seeing us. I'm going to keep it brief. Y'all have covered pretty much everything we wanted to speak about. We would like to request that we revisit this in 30 days. Make sure nobody forgets us again. Make sure a solution was found. And possibly some assistance with other vendors to make it a fair situation. And that's all I have to speak about.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. With that was the last item on our agenda. Thank you guys for being here today. I appreciate it. And just keep our offices in the loop to make sure we can get this resolved as soon as possible. All right. With that, Councilman Green moves we adjourn. Is there any objection? Hearing none, we're adjourned. Thank you. There you go, Joe.